Daniel Reeves, 39 years. I didn't lose my marriage because of a fight. I lost it because of something I didn't even notice at first. And the worst part is, by the time I understood what was happening, it was already too late to fix it. If you had asked me a year ago how things were, I would have told you everything was fine. Not perfect, but good. Stable. The kind of relationship people don't question. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for 11 years. Married for 8. We had a house. A routine. A life that made sense. No chaos. No drama. No obvious problems. We weren't one of those couples constantly trying to fix something. We just lived. And I thought that meant we were doing it right. Because nothing was breaking. Nothing was falling apart. Everything looked exactly the way it should. But that's the thing no one tells you. Just because nothing is breaking doesn't mean something isn't slowly disappearing. Our life had a rhythm. Mornings were quiet. Short conversations. Getting ready for work. Evenings were predictable. Dinner. Weekends were structured. Groceries. Errands. Maybe seeing friends. It wasn't exciting, but it was comfortable. And for a long time, I believed comfort was enough. Emily was always kind. Always present. Always someone you could rely on. She didn't complain much. Didn't create problems. Didn't demand more than what we had. And I thought that meant she was happy. That's where I was wrong. Because people don't always tell you when something is missing. Sometimes they just slowly stop bringing it up. At first, I didn't notice anything. Not really. Because nothing obvious changed. She still did everything she always did. Still talked. Still showed up. Still lived inside the relationship. But something about her felt different. Quieter. Not physically. Emotionally. The kind of quiet you don't question at first. Because it's easy to explain. She's tired. Work is stressful. Everyone goes through phases. That's what I told myself. Because it was easier than asking deeper questions. Easier than risking an answer I didn't want to hear. I remember one night, we were sitting on the couch. The TV was on. Neither of us was really watching it. And she said something. Something simple. I feel like we don't really talk anymore. I looked at her. What do you mean? I don't know, we just don't connect the same way. I shrugged slightly. We talk every day. That was my answer. Logical. Surface level. And I saw it. Just for a second. That look on her face. Not anger. Not frustration. Something quieter. Disappointment. But she didn't push it. Didn't explain more. Didn't try to make me understand. She just nodded. Yeah, I guess. And we went back to watching TV. That was the moment. Not the end. The beginning. But I didn't know that then. Because nothing changed immediately. Everything kept going. The same routine. The same conversations. The same life. And I told myself, everything was fine. But slowly, things started shifting. Not dramatically. Not in a way you could point to. Just gradually. Conversations got shorter. Not because we had less to say. Because we stopped trying to say more. She stopped asking certain questions. Stopped sharing certain thoughts. Stopped reaching. And I didn't notice it as a problem. I noticed it as normal. That's how it happens. You adjust to the change without realizing it. You adapt. You settle into it. And before you know it, what used to feel like connection feels like routine. I remember another moment. We were having dinner. She was telling me about something that happened at work. And I nodded. Responded. But I wasn't really listening. Not fully. My mind was somewhere else. Just everything except the moment I was in. And I saw it again. That same look. Almost invisible. Like she realized something. But didn't say it out loud. And I ignored it. Because it didn't feel urgent. It didn't feel serious. It didn't feel like something that could break a relationship. That's the mistake. Thinking that only big things matter. That only obvious problems cause damage. But the truth is, it's usually the small things. The things you don't notice. The things you don't take seriously. The moments where you choose not to be present. And think it doesn't matter. Because it does. More than you realize. And by the time I understood that, Everything had already changed. But I didn't know that yet. At that point, I was still living inside the version of the relationship that made sense to me. Still believing everything was stable. Still thinking nothing was wrong. Until the moment came, the one that made me realize I had missed something important. And I wasn't the only one who noticed it. The thing about slow changes is, you don't feel them as they happen. You adjust. You adapt. You tell yourself everything is still the same, even when it isn't. That's what I was doing. Living inside a version of my relationship that no longer existed the way I thought it did. After that conversation on the couch, we don't really talk anymore. I didn't think much of it. Not in a serious way. I registered it, acknowledged it, then moved on. Because it didn't feel urgent. It didn't feel like something that needed to be fixed immediately. It felt like one of those things couples say sometimes. A passing thought. A temporary feeling. And that's where I went wrong. Because not everything that matters feels urgent when it first appears. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, easy to ignore. The next few weeks were normal. Or at least, they looked normal. We followed the same routine. Morning coffee. Evenings together. Nothing had changed on the surface. But underneath, something was shifting. Emily became softer. Not warmer. Not colder. Just less present. She still talked. But less deeply. Still asked questions. But not the ones that mattered. Still smiled. But not in the same way. And I noticed it. But I didn't question it. Because it didn't disrupt anything. It didn't create problems. It didn't force a reaction. And when something doesn't force a reaction, you tend to let it continue. That's what I did. I let it continue. I let the distance grow quietly between us. Because it didn't feel like distance. It felt like comfort. Like routine. Like something stable. That's the illusion. The idea that stability means everything is fine. When sometimes, it just means nothing is being challenged. I remember one specific moment. We were in the car. Driving home from dinner with friends. It had been a good night. We laughed. Everything felt normal. And in the middle of the drive, Emily said something. Do you ever feel like we're just going through the motions? I glanced at her. What do you mean? I don't know, like we're doing everything we're supposed to do. But not really feeling it. I thought about it for a second, then shrugged. I think that's just what happens after a while. That was my answer. Simple, practical, final. And I didn't realize it then. But that sentence changed something. Because it told her, I had already accepted it. Accepted the distance. Accepted the lack of connection. Accepted that this was just how things were supposed to be. And once someone feels like you've accepted something they're struggling with, they stop trying to change it. That's exactly what happened. She didn't respond. Just nodded slightly. And looked out the window. And I didn't push it. Didn't ask what she really meant. Didn't try to understand what she was feeling. Because to me, there wasn't a problem. Not a real one. But to her, there was. And that difference, that gap in awareness, that's where everything started to break. Slowly, quietly, without either of us fully realizing it. After that, something shifted in her. More noticeably this time. She stopped bringing things up. Stopped questioning. Stopped trying to open conversations that went deeper than the surface. And I interpreted that as peace. As ease. As the relationship settling into something stable. But it wasn't peace. It was withdrawal. The kind that happens when someone stops feeling heard. Stops feeling understood. Stops believing that saying something will make a difference. And the worst part is, it doesn't look like a problem. It looks like calm. Like everything is fine. Until it isn't. I started noticing small things. Things that didn't seem important on their own. But together, they meant something. She spent more time on her phone. Not constantly, but more than before. She would smile at messages. Quietly. To herself. And I didn't question it. Because why would I? There was no reason to. No obvious red flags. No dramatic changes. Just subtle shifts. That's what makes it dangerous. Because you don't react to subtle. You adapt to it. You normalize it. Until it becomes the new version of your relationship. And by then, It's already too late to stop it early. I remember another moment. Late at night. She was sitting next to me on the couch, scrolling through her phone. And she laughed. Softly. Not something I had heard in a while. Not like that. Genuine. Unfiltered. And I looked at her. What's funny? She glanced up. Just something someone sent me. Who? A friend. And that was it. Simple answer. Nothing suspicious. Nothing unusual. And I accepted it. Because I had no reason not to. But something about that moment stayed with me. Not because of what she said. Because of how it felt. Because I realized I hadn't made her laugh like that in a long time. Not intentionally. Not recently. And instead of asking why, instead of leaning into that realization, I let it pass. That's how it happens. You notice something. You feel something. And then you choose not to explore it. Because it's easier. Because it doesn't disrupt anything. Because it doesn't force you to question your own role in what's changing. That's where I was. Right before everything became clear. Right before the moment that made me realize I wasn't the only one who felt the distance. I was just the last one to understand what it meant. And by then, something had already started that I couldn't undo. The moment you realize something is wrong is rarely the moment it actually starts. It's just the moment you finally see it. That's what happened to me. Everything had been shifting for a while, quietly, gradually, almost invisibly, and I had adjusted to it so completely that I stopped recognizing it as a change at all. Until one night, something small happened, and it wasn't small anymore. It was late. Later than usual. We had both been home for hours, but barely spoke. She was in the living room. I was in the kitchen. Same space. Different worlds. That's how it had started to feel. I walked in, sat down on the couch next to her. She didn't look up right away. Just kept scrolling through her phone. That didn't feel strange anymore. That was the problem. Hey, I said. Hey. Still looking at the screen. What are you doing? Nothing. Just scrolling. I nodded. Silence. The kind that used to feel comfortable. Now it felt empty. Like something should have been there. Something that used to exist between us. But didn't anymore. I sat there for a minute. Then I said it. Not dramatically. Just honestly. Do you feel like something's off between us? That made her look up. Finally. The pause. I don't know, she said. But I could tell she did. Because of the way she said it. Carefully. Like she didn't want to say too much. Like she had already learned that saying too much didn't change anything. I feel like we've been distant, I added. Another pause. Longer this time. Then she nodded slightly. Yeah. Maybe. That word. Maybe. It didn't mean uncertainty. It meant she wasn't going to explain it. Not anymore. And for the first time, I felt it. Not intellectually. Emotionally. That distance. That space. That thing I had been ignoring for months. It was real. And it had been there longer than I thought. I didn't think it was that bad, I said. She gave a small, almost unnoticeable smile. That's kind of the point. That sentence. It stayed with me. Because it revealed something I hadn't understood before. This wasn't new for her. This wasn't a sudden realization. This was something she had been feeling for a while. Something she had already tried to express. Something I hadn't fully heard. And now, it had settled into something quieter. Something more permanent. What do you mean? I asked. She hesitated. Just for a second. I tried to talk about it before. And I remembered. The couch. The conversation. The moment I brushed it off as normal. As something that didn't matter. And suddenly, everything connected. You didn't really listen, she said. Not accusing. Not emotional. Just factual. And that made it worse. Because there was no anger in it. No frustration. Just acceptance. Like she had already made peace with the fact that I wouldn't understand. I thought I did, I said. I know. That was it. No argument. No pushback. Just quiet confirmation. And that's when I felt it. The shift. Not in her. In me. Because for the first time, I wasn't defending myself. I wasn't explaining it away. I was seeing it. Clearly. Fully. And once you see something like that, you can't go back. We sat there in silence for a while. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one had meaning. Awareness. And for the first time in months, I felt uncomfortable in my own relationship. Not because something was happening, because something already had. And I had missed it. I want to fix this, I said finally. And I meant it. Really. Because now that I saw it, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Emily looked at me. And there was something in her expression I hadn't seen before. Not hope. Not exactly. Something more cautious. I don't know if it's that simple, she said. That sentence. It hit harder than anything else. Because it meant this wasn't just a phase. This wasn't just something that could be solved with effort. Something had already changed. On a deeper level. What do you mean? I asked. She looked down at her hands. Then back at me. I think I got used to not feeling it, she said. That was the discovery. Not a message. Not cheating. Not betrayal in the obvious sense. Something quieter. Something more complicated. She had already adapted to the distance. Already adjusted to the absence. Already stopped expecting something to come back. And that's what made it worse. Because it meant I wasn't trying to fix something that was breaking. I was trying to revive something that had already faded. And I didn't know how to do that. Not really. Because once someone stops expecting something, it's hard to make them believe in it again. I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I saw the difference. Not in how she acted. In how she felt. And I realized something that I hadn't allowed myself to think before. I wasn't the only one in this relationship anymore. Not emotionally. Not fully. And that thought, it stayed with me. Because it meant something had already shifted. Something I didn't see. Something I didn't understand. Something that was already moving in a direction I hadn't chosen. And I was just starting to catch up to it. Too late. Or maybe just in time to realize what I had already lost. There's a point where you stop asking if something is wrong and start realizing how much has already changed. That's where I was. Sitting across from her. Hearing her say she had gotten used to not feeling it. And understanding. This wasn't something new. This wasn't something I could fix quickly. This had been happening for a while. Quietly. Without me fully seeing it. And now, I was the one trying to catch up. Too late. Or maybe just late enough to finally understand what I had been ignoring. I don't want it to be like this, I said. And I meant it. Not as a reaction. Not as a panic. But as something real. Because for the first time, I wasn't just aware of the distance. I felt it. Emily nodded slightly. I know. Her voice was soft. Not cold. Not distant. Just steady. And that steadiness scared me. Because it didn't sound like someone who was confused. Or unsure. It sounded like someone who had already processed this. Already accepted something I was just beginning to understand. What do we do? I asked. That question. It felt heavy. Because it implied something needed to be fixed. Something needed to be decided. And I wasn't sure anymore if we were in the same place. She hesitated. Not because she didn't know. Because she was choosing how much to say. I don't think it's just about doing something, she said. I think it's about whether we still feel the same way. That sentence. That was the shift. Because now, this wasn't about communication. Or effort. Or trying harder. This was about something deeper. Something harder to control. Something you can't just fix with action. What are you saying? I asked. She looked at me. Really looked. And for a moment, everything felt still. Like the room had narrowed down to just that moment. I think something changed, she said. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just honest. And I felt it. That sentence didn't create the change. It revealed it. Because deep down, I already knew. I had felt it. Seen it. Ignored it. And now, it was being said out loud. What changed? I asked. She exhaled slowly. I don't feel the same connection anymore. There was. Simple. Clear. Final. And it hit harder than anything else. Because it wasn't vague. It wasn't uncertain. It was real. And once something like that is said, you can't go back to pretending everything is fine. Since when? I asked. I don't know why. Maybe I was looking for a moment, point where I could say, that's where it started. Something I could hold on to. Something I could fix. But she shook her head slightly. I don't know exactly, she said. It just happened over time. That's the truth. It doesn't start with one moment. It builds. Quietly. Until one day, it's just there. And you realize, you've been living inside it for a while. I wish I had noticed sooner, I said. And I meant that more than anything else. Because now, everything felt obvious. All the moments I ignored. All the things I didn't take seriously. All the times I chose comfort over attention. It was all there. I just didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to. Emily looked at me. And for a second, I thought I saw something. Not regret. Not exactly. Something softer. I wish you had too, she said. That sentence. It didn't hurt because of what it said. It hurt because of what it meant. She had been waiting. At some point. Trying. Reaching. And then. She stopped. Because nothing changed. Because I didn't respond. Because I didn't see it. And once someone stops reaching, it's hard to get them to start again. We sat in silence. But this silence was different. Not empty. Not passive. This one had weight. Meaning. Finality. Because now, everything was clear. Not resolved. But understood. And sometimes, understanding is harder than confusion. Because confusion gives you hope. Understanding gives you truth. And truth doesn't always come with a solution. I want to fix this, I said again. But it sounded different this time. Less certain. Less confident. Because I didn't know if fixing it was even possible anymore. Emily didn't respond right away. She looked down. Then back at me. I don't know if we can go back to what we had, she said. And that was the moment everything shifted. Not because something ended. Because something became real. Because now, it wasn't about trying. It wasn't about effort. It was about whether what we had was still there. And for the first time, I wasn't sure. Not because I didn't want it to be. Because I could feel it. That distance. That absence. That thing that used to exist between us. And didn't anymore. And I realized something then. This wasn't about losing something suddenly. This was about realizing it had been slipping away for a long time. And I had been standing there, watching it happen, without even knowing what I was looking at. That's the part that stays with you. Not the moment you lose something. The moment you understand, you had already lost it. The hardest part about losing something isn't the moment it ends. It's realizing how long it's been gone. That's what stayed with me after that conversation. Not what she said, what it meant. Because once Emily told me she didn't feel the same connection anymore, everything else became clear. Not in a dramatic way. Not all at once. But slowly, like pieces finally falling into place. All the moments I ignored. All the things I didn't take seriously. All the times she tried to reach me, and I didn't really respond. They weren't separate anymore. They were connected. And they all led to this. We didn't break up that night. That's not how it happened. There was no final decision. No dramatic ending. Just awareness. The kind that changes everything without needing to announce it. The next morning, everything looked the same. Silence. Routine. But now, it felt different. Because we both knew. And that knowledge sat between us. Quiet. Heavy. Emily stood by the kitchen counter, holding her mug, looking out the window. The same way she always did. But now, I saw it differently. Not just the routine. The distance. The way she seemed present, but not fully there. And I realized, this is how she had been feeling for a while. I was just starting to see it. Morning, I said. Morning. She didn't turn right away. And for the first time, that felt significant. Not wrong. Just telling. We moved around each other carefully. Not avoiding. Just aware. Like two people who understood something had changed, but didn't know what to do with it yet. I've been thinking about what you said, I told her. She nodded slightly. Me too. The pause. I don't want to lose this, I said. That was the truth. Simple. Direct. Because even though I understood what was happening, I didn't want it to be over. I didn't want to accept that something so important could fade without me realizing it. But wanting something doesn't always mean you can keep it. Emily turned to me then, and I saw it clearly. Not anger, not frustration. Something quieter, something more final. I think we already did, she said. That sentence. It didn't feel like an ending. It felt like confirmation. Because deep down, I knew. I just didn't want to say it. Didn't want to accept it. Because accepting it meant facing something harder. That I had been there. The entire time it was slipping away. And I didn't stop it. I don't know how to fix it, I said. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to sound confident. I wasn't trying to have an answer. I was just honest. She nodded. I don't either. Another pause. And I don't know if it can be fixed. That was it. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just real. And that's what made it final. Because there was no anger. No blame. No clear reason to hold on to. Just two people who slowly stopped meeting each other in the same place. And didn't realize it until it mattered. The next few days felt strange. Not chaotic. Not painful in the way you'd expect. Just quiet. We talked about practical things. About what this meant. About what we should do next. But underneath all of that, there was something else. Something unspoken. Understanding. That this wasn't sudden. That this had been happening for a long time. And now, we were just catching up to it. One night, we sat on the couch together. The same place where everything had started to shift. And for a moment, it felt familiar again. Not the same, but close enough to remember what it used to be. I wish I had paid more attention, I said. She looked at me. I wish you had too. That was the hardest part. Not because it blamed me. Because it didn't. It just acknowledged something true. That there was a moment, or many moments, where things could have been different. If I had seen it. If I had listened. If I had cared enough to understand what she was trying to tell me. But I didn't. And now, that moment was gone. That's what people don't understand. Relationships don't always end because of something big. Sometimes, they end because of everything small. Everything you ignore. Everything you don't take seriously. Everything you assume will fix itself over time. Until one day, it doesn't. And by then, it's not about fixing it anymore. It's about accepting it. A week later, we made the decision. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just honestly. To let each other go. Not because we didn't care. Because what we had was no longer enough. And holding on to it wouldn't bring it back. It would just delay the truth. The day I left the house, I stood by the door for a moment, looking around at everything we had built together. All the years, all the memories, all the moments that once felt permanent. And I realized something. This wasn't the end of something perfect. It was the end of something that had quietly changed, until it wasn't what it used to be anymore. Maybe that's harder, because there's no one to blame. No clear reason to point to. Just the distance. And the things you didn't notice when they mattered. So if you're watching this, and your relationship feels fine, don't assume that means it is. Pay attention. To the small things. To the silence. To the moments that don't feel the same anymore. Because the truth is, you don't lose a relationship all at once. You lose it slowly. And the most painful part is realizing it when it's already gone.